Welcome to World Talk with Friends, where the small world we live on becomes smaller as we discover neighborhoods all over the world by simply talking to our neighbors. This is Haggy Shack Radio production, simulcast over Wolf Spirit Radio Network. Colleen Kelly is producing with friends Nancy, Nora, Neil, and those we have yet to meet. Welcome to our world.
All right, we're live.
We're live? Okay.
We're live.
Oh, hey, everybody out there. This is the World Talk with Friends show. My name's Nancy Hopkins. I've got Nora Willow with me, and we've got Colleen Kelly producing today. So we are happy campers. Nora fell asleep. She's in Italy, and she's like 6 hours ahead of us. And she fell asleep for a bit, so we didn't really talk about what we were going to talk about, but that was okay because we're going to do something slightly different than we normally do. What I want to do right now is say, hi, Nora, how you doing?
I'm awake.
Excellent.
Sorry, Nancy. I'm good.
No, that's, hey, listen, everything is fine. Colleen, and you're doing better. You did the shows last night, you're doing today. And you're doing better.
Yep. And I'm awake. Barely.
Okay. So we got 3 awake people here. Good. What do you have anything, Nora, that you know has happened to you in the last? First off, I gotta say, I forgot to say, this is Haggy Shack production over Wolf Spirit Radio, and it is February 8th, 2017. So, but. Are you got anything that's happened that you wanted to share that you thought, oh, I should tell people this one?
Well, not really, but I'm very happy to say that I started my first self-defense class. So I'm very happy that I'm doing that. But yeah, for the rest, to be honest, nothing really special happened. It's been just a smooth week. Yeah, that's all.
Well, I understand that you did something about being an Alabama girl.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
What's that about?
It was a prank. It was a joke. I was just bored, and it was a Saturday night, and I was all by myself at home. So I'm like, let me show off my acting skills a little bit and then make a little joke. You know, that's it. But some people actually believed it. Yeah, it was hilarious. Did you see the video?
I didn't see it. You just told me.
Colleen. Well, yeah, Colleen commented.
I'm glad you're having fun. Hey, if you're having fun, you're doing something right, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know. You gotta get out. You gotta get out of your, you know, your, what's the word?
Alabama.
I mean, if you're always serious. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
We love Alabama. We have good friends in Alabama.
Oh, big time. I love Southern people in general. Alabama, anywhere. Actually, I think part of me always wanted to be a Southerner, to be honest. That might sound funny, but I just love it.
Well, maybe you were at one point.
Maybe I was, yeah. I love country music. I love the lifestyle. It's cool. I like it. I don't know why I'm laughing, but I like it.
Yeah, it's well, you know, that's the thing is that every place you go has a different energy to it. Never mind the culture and all the other things.
Exactly.
You got different stones and different trees and different animals, and it's a totally different energetic state. And some people just feel good in one place. Like I absolutely loved Arizona until
Arizona's amazing.
Then we took a drive to the ocean in Mexico. It was when I was in the military, and we had like, I don't know, a 3-day weekend or something. So a bunch of us got in these cars, my little MG, and we drive out 300 miles or so, I don't even know, but it took forever to get down into northern Mexico over to the Pacific Ocean. And when I realized how far from the ocean I was, I was never content with Arizona anymore. Even though
really?
I have to have the ocean close to me. I mean, I've never lived, well, in Massachusetts and New York, there was distance, but, as an adult, I've always been, here in Florida, basically.
Yeah.
And it's not like I had a job that I was a maintenance engineer and worked a night shift, midnight to 8. And so I saw the sunrise over the Atlantic at least over 5,000 times. And, just went out there every morning and got that burst of sun energy. And I wasn't sleeping. For 25 years, if I slept 4 hours at a time, it was what I was normally getting. On Mondays, I'd sleep like 8 hours, 10 hours. That was the one night that I didn't have to go to work. And I kept saying to people, you people to sleep while you're dead people. I should have gotten sick. Now that I know about what sleeping does, I should have been sick. But I kept going out there every morning and getting that dose of sunlight coming up that seems to have some energy that you get at that point. I mean, there's in India that's all he does. So,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it is an interesting story, to have actually not intentionally, but apparently had been, because I should have been sick. I was hardly sleeping at all for 25 years.
Wow, 25 years.
Yeah. I mean, I do these weird catnap things, It's like my friends are very used to me just falling off to sleep for, 5-10 minutes, come back and be fine. I don't do it so much anymore because I sleep 8 hours a day now. But I also have not seen the ocean. When it's there, but you don't go down to it, at least most of us don't. There's a saying here in Florida that we know who the tourists are. They're the ones with the suntans.
Yeah, I think this is something everywhere. I mean, wherever there are beautiful places, unfortunately, most of the people that live in these places don't really go there. Just like here, if you have the cathedral, the people that live in Milan don't really go inside. It's mostly tourists.
Sure, tourists come most of the tourist things that I've seen here in South Florida is because I've got people down here and I've got to, take the tourists to where they go. It's the only reason I ever see anything, is I'm going because I'm bringing somebody to see it. But it's just the way it is.
Wow.
Yeah, so everything is getting much faster and weirder. I don't know if you've been keeping up with all the changes, the Trump thing.
Yeah.
I
have.
There and the disclosure, Antarctica, all of these stories that started coming out, well, basically by the end of last year, that are just getting more and more. It's like they're not, normally you go through a phase of hearing a story and then it disappears, and no, these things are, progressing, and I'm not sure. Oh, I know what it was. I was looking at, Walt had put up on Facebook, on the Cosmic Reality group, Facebook group, he put up the latest from Ben Fulford. And so then he edited it and added what David Wilcock had said regarding what Fulford had said. And what Fulford was talking about is the continual indications of the destruction of the Cabal. And it seems like for all of the things that we've talked about, the way that the financial system has been designed, that is absolutely ludicrous. It's self-destructive. The greed, the wars that are made to essentially, create economic advantage for the people that are going to war, i.e. the United States, to all of the just kind of like manipulative way that they deal with us, from the mass media to the Wi-Fi systems and the synthetic telepathy. And there is so much, every place you look, there is another story of, well, this isn't good. But it seems to be that the thing that's going to take them down is the Pizzagate, the pedophilia. If what we're seeing is really happening. There was something like 400 people in California that were arrested on a pedophilia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the only place that information actually was officially acknowledged by mass media was a local outlet. It never got big news, but I mean, there is a link. The show's the news report. Wow, gee, we got all these people around us, 400 people around us were arrested for pedophilia. And you go like, oh, that's, nobody picked up on this? You know, I mean, what, no, it's being hushed. And so anyway, when David got involved in the Fulford, because again, David has been one of the people, and I'm a fan of David Wilcox. If you don't like him, then you might want to go someplace else today, because I'm going to cover what Wilcox has been talking about. But David was one of those people that very early in the game had the balls to talk about the satanic connection to so much of what he was seeing, and, didn't back away from the concept of, child trafficking and pedophilia and sex rings that are beyond belief. I mean, you just go like, this is so evil. This is so awful. How can this possibly be? And yet that seems to be what I look at my aunt, who's 90 years old, and she absolutely is terrified of Donald Trump. She sees her grandson being in a military uniform, going to war against Russia. She apparently has forgotten that they wouldn't be on the ground, they'd be nuked. It was like, it's not even, and she's very astute. It's not like it's 90 years old and her brain is going. No, she just is, for 90 years, been under the spell of the BS that they've been putting on her, and she sees Putin as a demonic being. Trump is a demonic being, and they're going to just absolutely cause the downfall of everything. When this woman, and I don't know that they're even going to believe it, I somehow or another I feel like she'll go to her grave denying that if all of this stuff about the terribleness, the child trafficking and everything else comes out, I don't know what my aunt's going to do. I don't know if she's, over the years I've said to her, you don't know the whole story, Peg. You really don't know it. And I don't know whether she'll say, wow, well, at least Nancy's known this for 20 years or so. Maybe I should talk to her, or she'll just not be able to handle it. And she's not alone. We've got a society, a world of Pegs out there that, how the hell are you gonna confront that everything that you thought was real was not real? That the boogeyman of Donald Trump is the guy that might be saving your ass. It's like, I just feel for these people. But anyway, so David's, and let me just get this thing up here. Okie dokie. Well, actually, I think I gave it to you already. Let me go over to, I don't even have chat up. What's the matter with me? I'm going to drop it here. Colleen, can you just give this to the people out there in chat? See, they do that. Now, how do you pick up that? How would you pick up the URL? Because when I dropped it in the Skype, it turns into that picture. Now you got to click on it and copy it. Well, anyway.
No, but it works anyway, I think. Even if it looks like a picture. If you just press on it, it'll open.
Just putting it in there so that Colleen could just copy it and put it in the chat room. Because I don't have chat up.
You can right-click it and choose copy link and drop it into the other computer. Paste it.
Oh, good. Copy link. See, I learned something. Excellent. Okay, and we're going to go over there and we're going to essentially go through it as it's presented. There's a tremendous amount of information in here. There is, I've read it a couple of times, and every time I read it, I go, oh, I don't remember reading that before. But it's something that I think maybe if we kind of like all look at, it'll give us a better picture, a better overview of some of the things we talk about. You feel good with that, Nora?
Absolutely.
Okay. Colleen, you okay? I know you're probably not feeling like talking, but, you know, if you want to jump in here at any time, please do. I'm just going to read it, and then we're going to, you know, talk about it. Jump in, Nora, if you hear something you want, you know, just to talk about. Okay, from Wilcox. Okay. The establishment is threatened like never before. Are they about to disclose advanced high-tech ruins under the ice in Antarctica and a limited secret space program to try to save the New World Order agenda? This is some of the most surprising, fascinating, and relevant inside intel we've ever posted. Multiple groups have urged us to get this information out as fast as possible. The story is so incredible that you may need to just treat it like a sci-fi movie. But even if that's the only level you can accept it, you should still find out this most fascinating, it's a fascinating read. Okay. The truth is exploding across the internet. Millions are learning for the first time that there really is a negative elite running the planet, engaging in child trafficking among other heinous crimes? Heinous, right? Bad crimes.
How do you pronounce that, Colleen? Heinous.
Anyway, awful crimes. The cabal's brazen effort to completely destroy this information are quite surprising to the millions who are only now discovering the scope of the problem. Although this information is extremely disturbing, it is also true. The only way we can heal as a planet is to face it and deal with it individually and collectively. Okay. All right. Going down. I'm now down to what they're doing right now. If you're a viewer of our weekly Gaia program show, Cosmic Disclosure, or have been following previous updates on Corey Good's intel, then you are already familiar with this new reality. Corey's experiences are so highly bizarre that most people identifying as skeptics wouldn't even follow us more than 10% of the way, if that. Nonetheless, Corey's intel is checked out with what many, many other high-level sources have leaked to me for over 20 years in time. The truth is extremely surprising and complex. The cabal has now taken an incredible brazen step of blacklisting 200 highly popular sites, including Gaia, our main portal for Disclosure TV episodes. They are using Google, Facebook, Apple, Snapshot, and other assets to prevent you from ever being able to find these sites, even if your friends wanted you to see them. YouTube has begun aggressively taking down every person posting videos on this scandal, including all three we mentioned in part 1. David Seaman's YouTube, Reality Calls YouTube, and the Alex Jones video. This is the work of a third world fascist dictatorship, hardly what we would expect in a democracy. If this was truly all just a big misunderstanding, why are they being so aggressive? Why would Gaia have made it onto the short list? How did we end up threatening them? From the world we are working within, the answer is simple. Child trafficking and spirit cooking. He's put that in parentheses. At the highest political levels is still just the very beginning. The whole subject of UFOs, ancient civilizations, advanced technology, and ETs has been strictly controlled by this very negative cabal. Much of this classified information is incredibly positive and uplifting, including the idea of an imminent mass human evolution that many refer to as the ascension. The cabal is the proverbial dragon hiding the treasure. If this group wasn't restricting our access to information, we would be living in a vastly more interesting world right now with much greater technology. Now, I want to stop here because, what are you thinking right now, my friend, Nora?
Well, yeah, it's, I definitely agree with everything that he wrote. Mostly because I think a lot of it has to do with intuition, in the sense that intuitively I feel that all this is very true. I'm a person that works a lot through intuition, like I think most of us here anyway. But there's a lot, I mean, a lot of it is so blatant that, just like what he said about, the YouTube videos, and I mean, he had a problem, I think, with his YouTube channel, where I think someone, and I'm trying to remember because I read the article where I think they shut down his YouTube for a while, or his website, was it? I'm not sure. He was having a lot of problems. So Corey as well, I think, I have Corey on Facebook. So, he posted a post a few days ago and said that, he went on vacation, and when he came back, he found that someone, signaled his profile, as, oh my God, I'm losing my memory. What did he say? Someone practically did something to his profile. Yeah. At some point, his profile was shut down. I saw that actually. It was shut down. There was his picture wasn't there. His name wasn't there. You couldn't access it. As if someone, when someone blocks you on Facebook and you try to go in and you can't open the profile. It was like that for a few days, and then suddenly he came out again. So that's when he posted his post and said that someone signaled his profile and they shut it down or something like that. So there definitely is something weird going on. Yeah, I mean that's what I've noticed in these past 2 weeks, especially with this thing about Corey's profile on Facebook. It was kind of weird. Well, so they're definitely trying to do something. I think they're panicking.
Yeah, it's kind of pathetic when you think about it, but within the context of what we just read, okay, again, it's bringing out the fact that this pedophilia thing it seems to be the thing that is trending now, and it may be that that's the first assault on the people that are still asleep. Do you realize that these people have been doing this? Because it just, I don't know why, but it just seems to be that that's what's taken hold. Later on they talk about it some more. But what I find really kind of interesting was the last statement he made was that if we were allowed to share what is out there, we would have a totally different society worldwide. And when Simon Parkes was on his show on Sunday, he said that, in fact, Donald Trump was going to release exotic technology that has come from, well, right now it's focused on Antarctica. But the technology that the secret space program really has, he's going to now take some of it, and introduce it to the Earth. I mean, they've been using it out there in space and stuff, and but now they're going to actually start to implement it, so that in the next 18 months, Park said that there would be a massive change all through the United States initially regarding just our ability to manufacture and do things, because new technology will be introduced. And I found that fascinating. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So,
well, we have to wait and see. A lot of things have been said as well, and a lot of things haven't come to pass.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
yeah, we gotta wait and see.
It's all storytelling.
Yeah.
You know? It's basically that, I mean, if you read this one and you listen to this one, you know, they've all got a story to tell. And they're not the same story. But they have so many similarities that it's almost like they're working off the same. Somebody gave them a set of facts, and now how do you build a story around it? You know what I'm saying? Because you see these threads that seem to be collaborating with one another, correlating, or just saying yes, you got it, I've got it. You know, there's just certain core of information that seems to be getting traction. And, you know, solidifying almost. So they go through and they talk about Corey. Now, what Corey brought to the picture was, do you want to talk about Corey Good? What do you know about?
Yeah, sure. Well, to be honest, I mean, I've watched a few of his videos. But I know that he talks about the Sphere Alliance, right? And that he communicates with these beings. But there are still a few things that, to be honest, I couldn't understand. I mean, I understand that he has been to some private meetings, and has he also been off planet? He claims that he's been off planet, right?
Well, what his story is, and he's not alone in telling basically the same story.
Yeah.
Is that he was brought into the secret space program. Hold a second, I'm shutting the door. We seem to have helicopters flying around. He was one of those that got sort of like, well, I don't know exactly what his story was as how he got in with the secret space program, because there's different ways that it happened. Like the one, I'm trying to think of what this guy's name was. Randy, it'll come to me. But Randy was an 18-year-old who went to sleep and had been, since he was a kid, being trained in things while he was asleep, because they were kind of like taking him out of body, or when he was asleep. And this is very difficult for people to understand. Well, the body's still there, but you've taken it out. Well, yes, they can do that, but they can also just zap the bodies, take them out of the bed. So he goes and he lays down, and all of a sudden he finds himself in a Randy Kramer, that he finds himself in a situation where he's being trained to become a super soldier. Now, what happens is it's like, this seems to be, I've heard it so many times in so many different ways, it seems to be a real ability that they would then, after he's had, like this training, zap him back into his bed a fraction of a second after they had taken him. So every night he's being zapped out of his body, gone and put in training, and then put back into his body. So he goes to sleep, wakes up, and has slept, 8 hours. What he doesn't realize is that he actually had been training for 8 hours and then zapped back time-wise so he could get the 8 hours sleep. But his body was coming back with bruises and all sorts of things. And his mother, he's still a kid. His mother takes him to the emergency room, and they wanted to basically look at the mom or dad as beating him up. It was child abuse. So in Kramer's case, the parents realized, I don't know what the hell is happening, but we're going to get in trouble if we try to pursue this. And then when he was 18, he was taken out, and he went away for 20 years. And if you listen to his story, it's fascinating. I mean, he was on Mars. He was fighting there's a Martian war going on. I mean, a fascinating story. True or not, it's a fascinating story. And then at the end of the 20 years, he was supposed to have been given, a nice job back on Earth and he could continue his life. Well, instead, they sent him back to when he was an 18-year-old. And so he goes and lives the same 20 years again with none of this stuff and no memory of it. And then one day he suddenly starts to hear voices in his head. And was told, do you recognize my voice? And all of a sudden the voice was like turned a key and he started remembering this guy. And it was part of this crazy situation where he had been away for 20 years and this guy was one of the people that he worked for. So after 20 years, they brought him back into essentially active duty again, but not in the way that it had originally been done. And the same thing sort of happened to Corey Good, is that he had gone through this training and everything and then ended up back on Earth, couldn't remember any of it. And then one day he starts to wake up again. And he contacts David Wilcock and says, I think I'm having these memories, because by then there were other people out there that were having the same situation. So what happened was that at that time he was contacted by somebody who he calls Gonzalez. And it was Gonzalez that started bringing him back to what you were indicating, that he was again taken into that secret space program world. He'd be woke up in the night and then gets on a weird looking ship and then goes off and does things. So a lot of the stories that Corey has been telling over the last few years comes from this continual interface with actually the secret space program, because oddly enough, Corey was the one who was chosen by the Sphere Alliance to act as their ambassador, their representative, their go-between, their liaison between the Sphere Alliance and the secret space program. So that's what Corey's role is in this. Do you have any questions about that?
No, I'm just wondering. I mean, I always think about these people, these whistleblowers between brackets. I mean, they come out and talk about these stories that sound obviously, unbelievable. But you would think that they would be attacked, more. I mean, it seems to be a little subtle. Or is it because they do sound crazy that the cabal or whoever is responsible is not that worried, because they're going to think, okay, this is how, society thinks, that doesn't believe in these things, and the idea of reality is so different that they don't represent that. Like people like Corey don't really represent that much of a threat, so they're just going to let them be. It's still a little confusing, it makes you think.
Well, it seems to be, because Wilcox is discussed this in a number of occasions. It seems to be that there are, let's say, rules and regulations of the universe that go beyond, just human law. And one of those things is that in this grand game of the battle between good and evil, because that's what it's all about. It's, it's almost like we get focused on skirmishes instead of seeing the entire battlefield. And it really does go back to the question of, Satan being thrown out of heaven, and what was that all about? And it's much bigger. It's a war between good and evil. Now, why we're playing it, I'm not exactly sure, but we're playing it. So, in that, let's say the rules of engagement, okay? Anybody who is fighting on the side of good, who maintains a fully oh gosh, I don't even know how David would explain this, that your thoughts are pure, that you're not being tainted, that you don't have any...
Like a pure heart.
Like a pure heart, but also a pure mind. Because apparently, if you start to, and David at one point was very honest about this, that when he first started out and he started getting known, the acclaim, okay, started getting to him, the fame, and what was particularly instrumental in that is the fact of life that when we see somebody and we're focused on them, we actually are sending them photons, these little things of light. And David spends quite a bit of time trying to explain this in his Ascension book, that you got these photons that are part and parcel of what we do. We absorb them, our cells absorb them, but they will also release them if you focus on something. So the people in the audience would be focusing on David and sending him all these photons. And the first time he was ever in front of a big audience, he got so juiced on the energy that it took him quite a while to get down from it. But he understood that this was an energizing factor. You've got to deal with these energies. You got to somehow come to grips with what happens when you become, somebody on a stage. But also that you never can let go of the pure heart, the pure mind concept. Because if you do, that's the way that the black side gets permission to go after you. In other words, David's alive because he keeps fighting off any kind of tendency to let his inner ego go, if you will, or the money thing. And a lot of it has to do with fear. You have to be able to control your fears, specifically, and very often, simply financial fear. So there's a lot of people that have fallen by the wayside because it is not an easy thing to go out and do this kind of work and maintain that real innocence, that real, I'm not
humility.
Sure. Yeah, the humility is that's probably the key to it. So, in this article, they were attacked. Actually, Corey actually started puking up this black bile-like liquid that was the same thing that oh gosh, what was his name? Somebody that I'll find his name as we go through this, had the same situation and died right as it was happening. So they sometimes do come under attack, and they are under attack from the concept of not letting Gaia on and the YouTubes and Facebook and this sort of thing. Because you're right, there's a certain, they're so crazy that nobody's going to pay attention to them attitude. But then when some people start to pay attention to them, like thousands, maybe millions, then they go, oh, we got a problem here. And then, what do? So they try to stop the voicing, because as long as these two guys and others stay in a positive pro-God, pro-good environment, they are really kind of, I've had people ask me why I wasn't killed. How come you're still alive? And I really didn't know why. I knew why in some instances because of specific, you missed me. You tried, you missed. But, having this, I feel completely protected because I really do think that I have a pure heart and a pure mind. I work hard to try to get people to get to that point. I think everybody really, except for these weird evil people, that most human beings have a really good heart, but it's what happens inside your head. And Walt did a brilliant job last night, I thought, explaining what he called the mind overlay. and how this, when we're born, we sort of like accept this mind overlay that he, because of the shamanic journey where he was explained a lot of this stuff, where that seemed to have had its origin in the time of Atlantis. And it was sort of like an artificial overlay to the human bioelectromagnetic field, everything that makes up a human being, that at the time of Atlantis was something that was done to enhance telepathy, was sort of, but what it really was designed to do, what it evolved into is the ability to get inside your head. It goes back to the concept of artificial telepathy. And so, if you have that mechanism, if you made some agreement to have that mechanism in your head, what happens is that all you hear is this continual noise in your head. The monkey brain, where it's, everything to think of. Now, and I was telling my friend Cindy what Walt had gone through, because Walt essentially started realizing it in the 3D, just like getting little hints from different things that this was the problem, because regardless of the fact that he spent now 2 years with me, and I'm telling him, hey, look, don't be fearful. It's not, you don't have to do it. I'm telling people, but they're not getting it. And I'm going like, why aren't they getting it?
Fearful of what? Sorry, Nancy, I missed that.
Okay, fearful of everything.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, it's like my best friend Cindy. I mean, she knows me for 25 years. And she still goes into states of fear and paranoia and blackness. Why? What is happening in your head? Is it the way you're wired? Is it, what's happening in your head? But Walt seems to have found out what it was. It's this overlay of an artificial overlay in your system that takes every experience you have, and because it's artificial intelligence and can learn, it takes all those things that ever gave you fits, that ever made you nervous, and it keeps playing them back in your head. So Walt says to me, look, he says, I wake up in the morning, and the first thing that happens is, what do I have to do today? Did I pay the mortgage? Do I owe this? Do I owe that? He says, it starts up and it doesn't stop. And, so for all of the knowledge that I have as to I should stop it, it wasn't stopping. It was like always there. And I could see this. Same thing as Cindy. So once he understood that it was this contract he had with this artificial thing that doesn't even belong to him, and went to the guides, and the guides said, not a problem, we just get rid of it. Break the contract and it'll be gone, and your brain will be yours.
You said a very important word, that's the contract, because I remember you mentioning quite some time ago about when you used to get certain thoughts and you would say, no, I'm not going to go there. And I realized that really is the simple solution, because a couple of weeks ago it happened to me. Suddenly, I was at work. I was working, focused, and suddenly out of nowhere, I wasn't like thinking of something or something happened to make me think of it. Suddenly, after a very long time, I started remembering what happened with my family. And I've done a lot of healing work. So compared to a year ago, I barely think of it, which is it's a great achievement. But it suddenly came up, and I started feeling again those feelings of injustice and feeling like, why did this have to happen? What did I do? And I started feeling really down, and I thought, oh my God, I won't be able to work anymore. It felt that bad. And then in a second I said, no, I'm not going to allow this. No. That's what I said. I said no. And within less than a minute, before these thoughts used to ruin my day, I would get into depression where I would go to bed, I would put my head on the pillow, and I just don't want to face the world. Within a minute, I actually, not only did I stop it, I completely forgot about it. So when I went home, I was like, what happened? Oh, wow, I don't even remember that happened to me. So I think the key is, as you say, and as a lot of people say, and something I really believe in, is that when you do that, you're claiming your sovereign being. That you choose, you decide what your thoughts are. Not whatever is in your head that could be artificial intelligence or some kind of virus. Because I believe it is a virus. I mean, when something comes up suddenly, without any trigger, there was literally no trigger. So definitely it is something strange, but you can stop it by claiming your sovereign self. It's incredible. It's incredible how simple it is and how most of us live our life suffering till the end of our days, not discovering this little trick that really works.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, good it worked for you because, I thought this is all you have to do is say no. And, it'll keep trying to pop itself back and you go, no.
Yeah, the more you do it, the more it subsides. Yeah. It's not something that you can do once and then you think it's going to go away. I keep telling, for example, some of my friends who are still not completely awake, but, they feel there's something wrong and they're going through this very uncomfortable process of knowing themselves. And I always tell them, understand, I'm telling you this out of my own experience because I've been there too. Don't think because you fall once or twice that you failed. You have to keep doing it. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes with time. So if you say no once, it may come back to you in 2 days. If the more you do it, the episodes become much longer until it actually stops. So it's you just got to believe in yourself, I think. That's the key. You have to believe in yourself.
It actually gets to the point where you can't remember it.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah, you can remember what sort of a subject, but it's like you've taken control and everything is saying, no, I'm not going to, even if you're asking me to remember, I'm not going to remember. You said not to.
Exactly.
Well, see, what Walt brought to it, because that was basically what I thought, was that most people should just be able to control it by saying no. What Walt brought to the table was this artificial thing that is continually, no matter what you're saying, it doesn't care. Because it's in charge, you're not. All right? And this is what these people have in their heads. So when Walt finally, went to his guides and the guide said, all you have to do is break the contract. It's not yours. You were tricked into accepting it. Just break the contract and they can no longer have access to your brain like that. Now, when I'm telling Cindy this, because I was just telling her what Walt had, taught me, and she was like, yes. Now, you and I probably sitting down having a conversation, we would be listening to the other person, but with an empty brain. Your brain isn't going, what's she saying? How's she saying it? What does she mean? Not talking. You just sit there and listen to what I said, and then you would reply back. Right?
Yeah.
What happens to them is that they're in a conversation. And I had seen this. I just didn't understand why it was happening. They're in a conversation with you, okay? And I know that when I'm talking to some people, I feel like, yes, I'm absolutely it's almost like a conduit of between me and them as far as a link of consciousness, right? But other people, I would feel like the only part of their focus was on me and what I was saying. Mm-hmm. And what's happening inside their brain is just that. It's like, okay, she just said that. So instead of just sort of saying, okay, what's this about? They go through the process of not just hearing my words, but they go through a process of, what does she mean by that? Where's this coming from? Should I believe this? This doesn't go, and they never stop talking. So they never really hear what you're saying because their heads are so full of all this, noise, static.
Yeah. And a lot of judgment as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's all in there because, again, it's this artificial thing that keeps playing back like a tape recorder, And when Walt busted the contract and it wasn't there, he said that next morning when he woke up, he was like, oh, my God. He had nothing in his head.
Wow.
There was no noise. He wasn't paranoid. He wasn't thinking about what he had to do. He was just like in the now, in the present. And I used to tell people, I think I walk around in a meditative state, because a meditative state is keep your brain from talking. Have the ability to shut it off.
Yes.
And he didn't have that ability. Neither does Cindy. It's a mechanism that some of us seem to have less of. Now, when I said to Cindy, Cindy was fascinated with the whole subject, because she does talk about this stuff, and we started talking about it, and I said, I could never understand what it was that was happening to you guys. I could sort of understand it, but I couldn't understand why it was happening. And she said, Nancy, your brain has been rewired. You did so many psychedelics. Oh yeah, you're probably right.
It makes sense, by the way. Yeah. Because they do change your perception.
Well, psychedelics are, I know LSD. I mean, that's what I took. Let me tell you the story, because you're going to love this story. Let me think now. I'd come down here just to visit somebody and said, oh my God, you don't have to have winter. And so I stayed. But I had already signed up for the military, for the Army. But they told me that they wouldn't be able to activate me for 2 years. So I was down here in Miami, thinking I was here for 2 years. It turned out that it was only a year. They activated me within a year. But during that year time frame, that seems to have been like 5 years in that 1 year, that's when time mattered. It was back in the 72 time frame. I was working in a bar. It was a private club, actually. And one of my friends, who was the bouncer, he says to me, I got a friend coming in town, and he says, I've got to work. He says, but you want to meet him and see if so just, because we do that for each other. Your friend's in, well, we'll take you out, and if you can't. So I get introduced to this guy by the name of Pete. Now, I don't ever know what Pete's last name was. All I knew is Pete's sailor, right? Because my friend's telling me, well, we don't exactly know what he does, but he comes into town and he hangs out for a while and then he leaves again. And my friend thought he was some kind of a sailor, that he was merchant marine or something like that, right? That guy, I don't even know what to think about it. Well, I do know what to think about it now, but I spent quite a bit of time with him. I mean, in a given day. It was only a couple of weeks that I actually knew him. And we just had a wonderful time together. I don't remember having sex with him, so I don't think it was that kind of relationship. But I spent a lot. I mean, I was spending nights over. I just don't remember having sex with him, even though I was sleeping with him. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what's this about?
Yeah.
But, so there was always something very strange about him. Like, he was just something strange about him. But he was a lot of fun. So one day, at 11 o'clock in the morning, and I worked nights, so it was like 11 was early for me. There's a knock at the door, and I go to the door, and Pete's standing there, and he said, "This is what you've been looking for." And he hands me a bag, and it's got 100 little yellow pills in it, like nitroglycerin-sized pills in it, right? And I said, "What's this?" And he said, "Well, didn't you ask if I could get you some LSD?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, that's LSD." And I'm looking at this thing, and it's like 100 hits of this LSD. He says, "You'll like it." I never saw him again. He just disappeared.
Really?
Yeah, okay. Now, the reason that I had asked about the LSD was a friend of mine. Now, in that time, 70s, LSD was all around. And one of the people who were in the band, there was Carol and Al, they were the part of the band, it was their band. And Al and I we did a couple of trips together, and we just had a hell of a good time. But Carol didn't want any part of it, because she had a bad trip at some point. So, but then she decides she wants to do it, and she asked me, I asked Pete, and Pete gives me this bag of LSD. Actually, it was LSD 25, which at the time was, well, I don't even think it was LSD 25. I think that's what he told me. I don't know what it was. So I start to take this stuff, and I mean, by that time I had dozens and dozens of LSD trips for 5-6 years, right? And I take some of this stuff, and it's like, oh my God, this is the best LSD I've ever, you can't even imagine what it did. It was like mind expanding. You know, everything. Wow. It was just, I mean, anybody out there that's ever taken LSD, the best trip you ever had was not compared to what this thing did every time. Now, what happened was that we were, few of us got together. I think that maybe it was a half a dozen people there. And one of the guys was, we always had somebody that was not taking the drugs, you know, just to make sure.
The sober one.
Designated driver type of thing, you know.
Exactly.
And he says to me, you know, it was like, by then I had realized that this stuff was so pure and so unbelievably powerful that you didn't need one of these nitroglycerin-sized things. You could chip it. A chip off of this stuff was enough to trip, right?
Wow.
So he had been in charge of chipping it. And I kept saying to him all night, I kept saying, I've never seen anybody get a contact high like this. And he kept saying to me, I licked the knife. Right? And I never got it. 20 years later, I went, he licked the knife. Oh my God, just licking the knife was enough to trip.
Wow.
So, I mean, this is what this stuff was. But understand that I now have a supply of a year's worth of the most unbelievable LSD that's ever been on the planet. Right?
Wow.
So for an entire year, I was on LSD.
You didn't get addicted to it?
Well, I don't know, because I was taking it every day.
No, but when it was finished, what did you do?
Oh, no. It never affects you that way. You know, it doesn't, it's not any kind of thing that's addictive.
No, but I mean, you know, like, you know, it's finished now, you know, I can't do it anymore.
Oh, well, let me tell you what happened, okay? So I tripped for a year. I have unbelievably metaphysical events happen. I could tell you stories that you'd go like, real unbelievable stories, right? And then, I had 3 hits left, 3 pills left. I got on a plane. I flew to Atlanta. I got on a bus. The bus took me to a place called Anniston, Alabama. I got out there, then another bus came, and it was the bus to take me to the U.S. Army. I'm still tripping like, and, you know, it's like, the guy gets to there were other women there too, because we were going to the women's army school in Fort McClellan in Anniston, Alabama. And so the guy says, okay, so anybody that needs to go to Fort McClellan, you know, get on the bus. And so as we're getting on the bus, he says, where are you going? And I said, well, I'm going to the officers' barracks. And all of a sudden, this guy went into a complete attention and threw me a salute. And I was like, I think we're not in Kansas anymore. It was like, oh my God. Yeah, so I went from years worth of rewiring my brain on this amazing, and there's no way, at this point in my life, I know that Pete was an emissary, a spirit, somebody that was here just to get me that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
You see, now that really explains why they decided to make LSD, you know, prohibited. Because if it really does rewire your brain from programming and conditioning, everybody's going to be free. So it's
well, I don't want anybody to go out there and
oh no, of course, this is not a
this was not normal LSD. This was definitely brought to me.
at one point, I was actually taken out of body and brought to the land of the golden light and met the White Brotherhood. I got to ask any question I wanted. They answered everything I asked. And then when they sent me back, they said, oh, there's one problem. I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, you're not going to remember what we said to you until you live it.
Yeah.
Until it becomes real to you in the 3D, and then you will remember that we told you.
Yeah, I think this is how they work because I'll tell you my own experience, which is not metaphysical like yours, but mine was more like a dream. And I think I shared this already, but I'll just share it again quickly. When I was about 6, I had a dream, and I wasn't raised religiously. Both my parents aren't religious. And I didn't have, the religious conditioning at the time, yet I still didn't start school. So, or I just had started it. So, I had a dream that the prophet actually came to me. And I was 5 or 6. I mean, I was really young. And I had two different dreams, and they looked both exactly the same. We were in exactly the same place. And, the first dream, he was young, like a younger man in his 40s. And it's bizarre because I remember his face till now. And we were walking along this beautiful garden where, ironically, strangely, all the dead people or the people who have passed away, I see them in this place always. We start walking and he's talking to me. He's talking, and I'm just, shaking my head like I'm listening. And the dream finishes. Then I have another dream, the exact same scenario, but he's much older. He's like in his 60s, and he has a white beard. Same thing. We keep talking, and he keeps talking, and I'm nodding my head, and I'm listening. And at the end of the dream, the second dream, there's this, really bright white light behind me, and something tells me, don't turn around. That's not for you yet. You can't turn around. So I don't, because usually when you see something strange, your first reflex is to turn around and see what it is. So this light was coming behind me, and it was reflecting on his face because he suddenly stood right in front of me, and the expression on his face. Hello?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I don't know what happened. I was saying the expression on his face became so beautiful, like almost. You can't even describe it. And he kneeled down and grabbed my hand and said, you remember everything I told you, okay? And I said, okay. He said, I will come back one last time. That's all I remember. That's all I remember. But everything he said to me, I don't remember anything. And he talked a lot. So when I interpreted this dream later on, I was told this, that everything that you've been told is inside of you, and it was meant for you to have in your subconscious. And when the time is right, you're going to remember things. The things that were told to you are going to be triggers to help you see the truth. That if you hear the truth in real life and waking life, it's going to make sense. It's going to touch a nerve. And it's amazing because it's true. Because if I look at my life, I wasn't programmed like my friends at school. Most of the things that I learned at school with, things about religion never made sense to me. They could never brainwash me. I wanted to share this story to confirm what you're saying is it doesn't make sense to remember it because the point is for you to live it first. So it's quite fascinating. It's really, really fascinating.
Listen, we're at the top of the hour, so let's take a little break, and when we come back, we'll talk some more, and we'll talk some more about Wilcox. It was an interesting little side trip we took there, but it's an important one, and we'll answer
the questions.
Yeah. Okay, so, Colleen, you got a little tune that you can tune us?
I do, and we'll be back, just as soon as I can do, in about 4 minutes.
Thank you.
Alrighty, and we are back.
Okie dokie. I was just reading what Dolly posted in chat there. Concerning contractor vow breaking. so anybody can read that happens to be in chat right now. The question was, and I've got to go over here to see it, from N.E. Wannabe, how do you break the contract? Can you elaborate that a bit? According to how Walt did it, breaking a contract is just like what Dolly is explaining there. Walt and I did a couple of shows on breaking contracts. It's amazing how many contracts you have, and once you begin to think in those terms, it's like you. Let me give you an example. There's always something. That's a contract. You're giving permission for something to happen. It goes from that to one friend of ours. Her father had been in the super soldier, secret, black, whatever, and they unfortunately had made contracts regarding her that she didn't realize was there, and it wasn't until she addressed what her parents' contracts were on her that she actually was able to kind of break out of it. So there's a lot of different ways of these contracts being there. The contract that Walt is talking about with this artificial mind overlay is one that you make when you're born. They sort of say to you, you're not going to make sense of 3D unless you accept this overlay that sort of interprets from your higher self so that you can work within the 3D environment. That's the way that I understood it. And that to break that is just to understand that the stuff that's in your head is not necessarily yours. Now, Walt did warn people that, you have habitual thought things that happen, You think of the mortgage, you panic. You think of something that, you seeing your father and, you've had these different issues and you panic. It's set up, it's a habit. Certain situations will trigger these habits in you. He said you have to be aware of those, but he said that's something that's training. That's when Nora's, suggestion of saying, no, I ain't going there. That is what breaks the habit things. But this overlay, you basically just say, for the good of all and all dimensions, in all versions of myself, in all incarnations of myself, take away this artificial mind overlay and just let it go. And he said that in his case, he was doing a shamanic journey, and the guide that was the spirit that was explaining to him what this was all about took like a knife and just took a bubble that Walt saw around himself and just put a hole in it, and it just deflated like a cellophane bag would if you had blown it up, or a balloon type of thing. It just sort of descended, not a balloon that would pop, but it just fell at his feet. And that's when he got the clarity. That's when the noise stopped in his head. He says it's really up to you how you imagine this thing. But the key is to break it. To say, I'm not going to have any part of this. I want this gone. Now, last night, we did a thing that should make it, you shouldn't really have it functioning. If we did what we think we did, or I think we did, I was the one that was pushing this, you don't have the overlay. We just said, look, if you guys are in my reality, I'm not going to let you have that in my reality. Now, that seems to go against free will, and Wilcox is a big one for free will. The thing of it is that if you don't know you've been tricked into making a contract, there was no free will. Now, how the dark side gets around this is that they made a stipulation, an interpretation to the rules, the rules of engagement, and said, well, if we ask them a question and they don't say no, then that's an agreement.
Usually that happens with children.
Yes, but it also happens with us because they show us a movie, and we don't say, no, we're not going to allow this to happen.
Yeah.
Even though we don't realize it's a question. Yep. And that's the thing, is that we didn't realize there were questions, so we didn't answer no, because we didn't know we were being asked a question. And this is how they've been able to get away with a lot of this. This is why they're falling apart. Because more and more people are realizing that, no, I didn't agree to that. And so as soon as they start doing that, then they're in charge of their own free will. But in my reality, if you guys are all out there under this spell of this mind overlay and don't realize that you are not using your free will, but I realize you're not using your free will, I actually have a responsibility to use my free will to free you. That's my mindset story that says, that allows me, gives me permission within a free will universe to make certain decisions and determinations, whether they work or not work, that to free everybody that's in my reality. If you want that mind thing, you want your head full of that stuff, then stay in your own reality. But in my reality, if you want to interact with my reality, you're not going to have that stuff happening in your head. You're going to feel good. You're going to feel like you've got control, like the thoughts in your head are being controlled by you, not by somebody tripping a series of bad thoughts that come out because they've been programmed.
The thing is that people don't seem to understand that, and I myself wasn't aware of it, because they think that everything is so 3D. They don't realize that, forget the cabal, there really is a spiritual war. There really is a spiritual war. It's there. It's real, whether you like it or not. And I'll give you an example why. Now, why did I bring up children? Children are the easiest targets. Now, what you were saying is more about, free will of the person, how, obviously, yes, regarding the world events and how, they trick you into submission through media and things like that. But let's go a step deeper, where it's much eerier. When a child is born into this world, they have their own spiritual fingerprint, right? So everyone has a unique spiritual fingerprint. So these beings that we don't see, good or not so good, they know who's coming in. So if we're going to talk about the bad guys, if they see that this human being that has come into this world has a powerful soul, they're going to do everything to try to corrupt it. This is my personal experience. I was born in a normal family, nothing, no espionage history or nothing of that sort. But I realized after a lot of inner work that I was programmed. I had a satanic programming. Okay? I had a satanic programming. Why? Because since a very young age, I had a lot of strange thoughts. And I have always been connected to Gaia. I love nature. I've always, since I was 5, I remember putting my finger up into the sky and saying, I have a mission. And my mission was to go to Africa and do humanitarian work. So I know that I have a very powerful humanitarian, empathic soul. This is not me, boasting. It's a fact. Because you also have to say what's true about yourself without any arrogance. But then why is there this complete opposing part of me that was very satanic? For example, I remember there was a little book, like a child's book, which is, screwed up, to be honest. And there was this picture that I would sit for hours and stare at. There was this dragon kind of being, like a very scary monster, that was eating up people. And I would sit there just looking at that picture. And I was almost in trance. I was a child. I was like 4. Okay. Why is there this? And it almost felt like, it was like mixed feelings where this is disgusting, but at the same time, I can't get my eyes off of it. You get what I'm saying? I mean, this is very uncomfortable for me to say it, and I'm sure that a lot of people understand what I'm talking about. And then as time passed, there were a lot of more satanic kind of programmings in my head where, remember, we talked about this, where I would have these really weird, even like, perverted thoughts that would come to me suddenly, and I would say, oh my God, what is this? This is disgusting. But at the same time, I can't stop thinking of it. And a lot of things were very graphic, okay? When I left the Middle East and I came here, I realized that I even did like a session with Simon Parks, and he actually talked about it without me telling him. So this guy knows what he's talking about. He really does have power in knowing things. I decided to break this contract. I said, no more. That's it. I'm done. I'm not going to feel guilty about this anymore. I'm not a freak. I suffered for years in silence because I thought there was something wrong with me. And I realized that this was satanic programming from a young age. But the cool thing was that while this was happening, there were also good, positive, spiritual beings taking care of me, because I had a lot of very positive experiences, like someone who's trying to protect me, keep the balance. And you know what? Since I broke that contract, those thoughts, after, look how many years, almost 30 years, I'm turning 33 this month. It stopped. And now it's been 6 months. I have no more of these thoughts. Now, if that's BS, I don't know. I mean, really, to be honest, it can't just be a coincidence. So I just wanted to share this. And I know that a lot of people are suffering from this. But children are subjected to satanic programming. And it's very scary, to be honest.
And we don't really know if that programming isn't part of that mind overlay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a guy out there that was part of the DARPA kind of group. I think it was DARPA. Defense, they make the research and development. And he was talking about how the Wi-Fi systems are designed to put thoughts in people's heads. And I've been saying this, you know, every once in a while, you're nodding off or whatever, and all of a sudden you realize it's like you're watching a movie screen, and you don't even know who the people are. But it's always something bad happening. You know, and it's like, I'm like, who are these people? What is this in my head? And I realized that it was this artificial signal that was coming into my head. So I just take all the energy I got and I turn it right back down the source, you son of a bitch. You know?
Yeah.
But I so much applaud you, for being open about this, because I suspect that an awful lot of people have the same thing happening to them, but they
Do you want
wouldn't.
me to, exactly. Do you want me to tell you why it's true what you're saying? Because I actually poured my heart out to my very, very close friend, and I started crying. You know what she told me? She started crying, and she's like in her late 30s, and she's like, don't be sad. This happens to me too. She said, I never told a soul, but because you brought it up, I'm telling you. And she says, I get these thoughts of like sexual things about children, and she's like, I don't know why they're coming to me. And it has happened to me too. Even when I was younger, these things are disgusting. But I'm adamant to bring it out because this is taboo. And it has to come out. I'm not a pedophile. I don't like having sex with children. Okay. Then why did they come? Not anymore, thank God, after I broke that contract. She was able to bring it up and tell me. And she started crying because she's been living in guilt. And she's like, I don't know why this is coming to me. So if that one person that I spoke to by chance has the same problem, she was suffering of the same problem, and we're women. You know, usually you always say that men are the ones who have all these screwed up things. It's not true. So it's a very uncomfortable subject, and it definitely, I feel uncomfortable talking about it, but it needs to come out in the open. Because I do believe 100% that this satanic stuff is artificial intelligence. It's real, and people who deny it, they're just not going to be able to evolve. Because you need to see the evil in order for you to see the light as well. You can't just deny things. So I hope people will start opening up more. I mean, maybe this is my mission. I don't know what I still don't know what my mission is exactly. But I think that when these things start to get uncovered, people start talking about it openly, we're going to be able to kill the monster. Because there definitely is a monster.
Well, you know, it's one of those situations where it's not just sexual in children.
Yeah, not necessarily.
No, it's the whole concept of, like, violence.
Yes.
Now,
exactly.
when I was growing up, the stuff that you see now would have absolutely not been tolerated because it was too graphic. It's too real. Like the video games. I'll tell you a little story. My brother, Mark, he is one of these kind of crazy inventors, and he had developed some hydrofoil, the air. Air is coming out of the bottom of this little car, and it's like in the ships that have the hydroplaning thing. Whatever, what do they call that? The air comes out and lifts it up so that it's going across the top of the water really fast. Well, he developed this for little cars, like go-karts. And he's got this shop, and he's made the shop so that there's like a track inside. It was in Massachusetts, and it'd be cold in the winter. So he finally brings his son and his two sons and two of their friends up to ride these things. And the whole way up there, you got to be safe. You got to, giving them all these safety, lecture. And they get up there and they look at the car. He had two of them there. And they yelled, "Mario car," and they jumped on the dang things, gunned them, and then crashed. And Mark was standing there totally stunned because had he and his twin brother done the same thing and crashed, whether they were hurt or not, they'd have been crying. But these kids just jumped up and down and up and down, and Mark was just so freaked out about it that he got them right back in the car and took them home. And it was only a couple of weeks later, it took a couple of weeks before he happened to walk in the house and they were playing the Mario video game, Mario Brothers. And he's hearing them yell Mario, and he goes, "That's what they said when they crashed. What is this?" And he went in there, and these kids were playing a game where little cars, very similar to what he had, were being crashed in these video things that they're watching, and nobody ever got hurt. And he said they were programmed not to get hurt. They were living in a virtual reality where you can crash a car, you can crash them all day long, you're not going to get hurt. So if you take that away from the Mario Brothers and this, benign kind of video game, and put it into the concept of these war games that they do. People are coming out of there with, you would think, a lot of violence attached to it. I mean, that's what, you get people talking about how these video games are creating violent people. Mm-hmm. In fact, the research is telling them no, it's telling them the opposite. That they're actually, by using the video games and all this violence and stuff, they're actually working violence out.
Do you agree with that?
I don't know what to think about it. I've never been on a video game in my life.
To be honest, I mean, I've read research as well that, video games are actually, they don't create violence. And, this is just a personal opinion, but I don't understand the need for violence. I mean, why would you want to instill in a child why? I mean, there are so many other efficient ways to let out aggression. Sports is one great way to let out, energy. Violence, whether it's virtual or non-virtual, personally, I don't understand it.
I don't either, and I think I don't. Well, actually, I'll watch an action adventure thing, mostly because I'm so amazed at some of their video ability. You know, but it's like,
Yeah.
do I need to? Absolutely not. Do I need to watch football? Absolutely not.
No, violence exists, but we don't need to add to it, you know, with these kind of video games. Like you have this, what's it called? I don't remember now the name, but I think it's the same one you're talking about, the cars, where you crash into, you can do whatever, what's the name? I guess maybe someone in chat will mention it. Where you can crash and kill people and there are prostitutes and you can kill old ladies and what, and you can do anything and you can get away with it. That's the theme of the game. You can do whatever you want.
That's sick. That's sick.
That's sick. I mean, why create a game like that?
Well, so somebody makes millions of dollars on it.
Exactly. And I don't understand why people think it's fun to play a game like that. I mean, I think strategy games are fun. Like even war strategy, that's fine. In a way, it teaches you certain things but this raw violence that's meaningless, it's just for violence sake. I mean, to me, again, they can say whatever they want in research, but it is a form of programming in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Well,
I may be wrong.
No, I totally agree with you. I do want to say something about the LSD connection here, because what we're talking about is mind control beyond what anybody really anticipated they were capable of doing, in my opinion. When I was, what was it? Would it have been about 75? I found out about how they were going to use psychic weapon machines to get into people's heads. Well, obviously they've done this quite effectively with the Wi-Fi and the overlays and all this mind control stuff. But I don't know if you heard it or not. There was a fire in the CIA facilities, I think in Langley, in D.C. Did you hear about this fire?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it was like a fire that was like a massive fire that burned a whole facility that was run by the CIA apparently. And when the fire authorities got in there, they found that the place was a meth lab, and that there was a tremendous cache of methamphetamines. But there was this other...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard of it now that you mention it, the meth.
This other stuff that was Phena something or other. I don't remember what it is. And a lot of it, you know. And so Steph and I got to talk. I said, what is that stuff? And she said, this stuff, well, let me think of where did it first come out? Oh, God. This is like a chemical mind control thing. Okay? In other words, if you get this into your system, you're more easily mind controlled. That's what it was designed for. I'm trying to think of where it was first discovered. But they are lacing the LSD with this stuff. So anybody that's out there thinking they want to take a chemical, have an experience, that's not an option anymore. Now, why was it that I was given by what I say is a spiritual being, Pete the sailor? It's because we're back in the 70s, the 75. All right? There was very few humans that were capable of adjusting their internal frequencies to match what was happening on the planet. And we are so connected to the planet that it's like the planet can't do anything energetically that doesn't change us. And if we change, the planet changes. It's a symbiotic relationship of growth and consciousness development. So the planet is in need of an expansion of energetic energies, but human beings on the planet weren't able to go there. All right, because we weren't designed to do this. So the other side, ET or spirit or whoever, somebody decides, well, we'll just get Hopkins to change her energy field to a point that she can anchor in as a human being, again, representing humanity, okay? We are capable of holding that type of high frequency energy. Now, what I'm talking about is when you compare the brain waves of somebody who is on LSD, it's identical to REM sleep, rapid eye movement, where you're in the deepest sleep. And it's also identical to somebody who is putting out a psychic signal. The same. So somebody who is in REM sleep in the dream world is opened up to psychic abilities. Everything that they think they can do, they're going to do in a dream state. And in the dream state, there is not a question of free will because it's a different universe altogether. In the dream state, you can use your imagination to create any reality you want. There is no consequences. You're just testing your thinking. It's like a higher level of creative thinking. What if I did this or what if I did that? And depending on how you're thinking, you're either going to have a really good dream or a really bad dream. So, yeah, Colleen, I guess, just read fentanyl. That sounds like it. Yeah, I think you're right. That's it. I thought it was a PH, but that's an F.
Well, I know that with fentanyl, because they used to put fentanyl patches on people that were having pain.
Really?
Yeah. They had one of my daughters on them, and she'd put that patch on and be falling asleep in the middle of eating. I mean, she'd have a hamburger in her hand and just fall asleep. Boom. And I know that a lot of people use the fentanyl patches. They would put them in their mouth and suck the fentanyl out of them. Fentanyl patches were a big problem several years ago.
I just remember what Stephanie said. She said that this stuff, if it's the same thing, was the same stuff that was in that, what did they call them, soap bars or something? What the heck was it? They were taking them and people were eating faces and stuff. What the heck was that name?
You're talking about the drug?
It was something they were taking, and it was like, it wasn't even illegal because it was something that was, oh man, I don't remember what it was. Bath crystals. Yes, it was bath crystals. And they were taking these bath crystals. She said that's the same stuff that was in it. And that there was too much in it, and so it threw them into this bizarre, crazy eating people. But they've got it down now so that the dosage is much lower. But they're putting it in the stuff that they're giving addicts, like they don't get heroin, they get something else. It's laced in there, and it's laced in LSD, and it's probably laced in a lot of other things because it essentially allows your brain to be manipulated chemically.
I know they just did a big recall of that, whatever the drug is that they're giving the heroin addicts.
That's it, yes, exactly.
There were so many deaths from heroin that they started giving these things. They were like, if somebody was dying of an overdose, they'd give them a shot of whatever this was. They just did a massive recall here on whatever the shots were.
Yeah. And, the CIA building had tons of that, well, along with methamphetamine. So you have to assume the methamphetamines have been laced with it too. So anybody out there, don't do these drugs. They've infiltrated the drug, so that they're poison. It's a way of getting a hold of you.
5 tons, it says. More than 5 tons of drugs were found and seized at this building.
Yep. Thank you for looking that up.
Wow.
Now, we heard that the CIA was involved in, this kind of activity, but to actually, you see, and it's like the synchronicity of it is like, geez, now they're going to burn down the buildings in order to expose them. I mean, at every turn, the things that we had no way of really proving are getting proven. They just burnt down a building so that they could find 5 tons of this shit in there, under the auspices of the CIA. Duh.
The search of the western wing of the George Bush Center for Intelligence. They found more than 2 tons of pure pseudoephedrine, that may be what you were talking about.
Yeah.
As well as a large quantity of acetone, iodine crystals, battery acid, drain cleaner, lantern fuel, and antifreeze.
A drug lab.
Well, wasn't the CIA responsible for the whole, experiment in the 70s? So it kind of makes sense, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Been accused of bringing drugs in.
Yeah.
Which is part of the whole why we're supposedly policing, guarding the poppy fields in Afghanistan. That whole thing too. So this is, I went meth, cocaine and morphine. Of course, earlier it was like weed and LSD and all that kind of stuff, and now it's meth. Is it more profitable than morphine and cocaine? Why the hell meth?
It's so addictive.
Yeah.
And it's so destructive.
Is it?
Yeah.
Symptoms, you often can tell when somebody's on meth, where you may not know so much on cocaine or morphine, but the meth, they kind of dig at themselves, their faces break out, and they're always picking at these little breakouts and stuff. When you see pictures,
it juices your nervous system up so much that it's like you're feeling like bugs are crawling all over you.
You see all these mug shots of people who are arrested for doing meth and stuff, and they've all got these, their faces look awful, But it is killing an awful lot of people.
My God. What about heroin? Yeah, we have a lot of heroin addicts here in Milan. I see many.
I know that a lot of it here is so many people have been put on these heavy-duty pain meds that used to, unless you were dying of cancer or were a severe burn victim, you didn't get these drugs. And now you go to the doctor and you tell them, oh, my back's hurting, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the pain clinics aren't asking for x-rays or any kind of test. They just go, oh, okay, and then write you a script for
oxycodone.
What was it years ago? Opana. That was, oh my gosh, that one was horrible. And then the pain clinics become under scrutinization. Some of the pharmacies are reporting doctors because they have hundreds of patients per week filling drug prescriptions for these pain pills. And so when the pain clinics become under scrutiny, they cut a lot of people off their pain pills, cold turkey. So these people are highly addicted now and don't know what to do, so they're buying what was morphine off the street and now is heroin. And it's horribly scary because it's not just kids looking for a high. It's adults, people of all ages, in their 60s even, looking for heroin on the streets because they've become so addicted to these pain pills. And then, there's other pills they put you on. that are just as bad and just as addictive to try and get you off the morphine or the, whatever. But they're just as addictive. And it is a big, big problem. And of course, it's the people that are arrested and put in jail and all that kind of stuff and put through 3-day rehabs to dry them out. And then they're back on the street looking for the same thing. So it's not working.
Yeah.
And they're arresting the wrong people, in my opinion. So, anyway, I kind of got off on a tangent there, so I'll be quiet and let you guys go on.
Well, no,
No.
because we did bring up the drugs, and I want people to understand that, I haven't done these things for 40 years. It's like, it's not the same place. It's not the same time. And don't mess around with this shit. Not just because it's maybe addictive by itself, but because they're messing with you. I mean, the reason I know about methamphetamines is because I went to this doctor because I had a pilonidal cyst that I needed antibiotics for. And so he gives me the antibiotic prescription, but then he said, "You're overweight. I'm going to give you some diet pills." And he wrote that one. And I was in so much pain that when I went to the pharmacy, I didn't know which one was which. I just put them down and got them both. And so I used those diet pills, and I'm telling you, methamphetamine is a lot of fun. You have all this energy, you can do all this stuff. If you're doing creative stuff, you can stay focused, But it's a bitch. It's a very, very addictive thing. It turned out that this doctor was like prescribing thousands of these things a week.
God.
I didn't see I didn't know the doctor. I mean, somebody said, "This is a doctor I know," but that's what he was known for, was to, sell these prescriptions. And, I went because I had a legitimate reason, not because I knew that. It was just one of those things that I fell into. But did I take them? Yeah. They were great. Did I want more? Yeah. But the girl that had actually sent me to him, she had been going to him and getting the pills. And she went into a psychotic break. Tore the ceilings down in the apartment.
Oof.
Oh yeah, she went completely Looney Tune when she was taking those.
Well, I remember when I was in Saudi, I had a procedure where I needed to get, like the tramadol pills, the morphine, and the doctor literally gave me 3 pills. 3. 1, 2, 3. That's all he gave me. He said, "You take these home. When you need them, you take them." And when I needed them, I did take them. I didn't take them all at the same time. They stayed with me for 3 weeks. But damn, did it feel good. And I was like, wow, this really feels good. Morphine's amazing. It really makes you feel good. But he just gave me 3. That's a good doctor. He said, "You will need them, but that's all I'm going to give you." So, I guess maybe because Saudi Arabia is a little bit more controlled when it comes to this stuff, ironically. So, I hope it stays that way. But, Sorry?
It was 20 years ago, right?
What? No, this was 2 years ago? No, 3 years ago.
And probably not so controlled by the pharmaceutical companies as it is here.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. In Saudi Arabia, you still have a little bit of control when it comes to these things. They're much more strict, I guess because they're not as, all these things, the Kabbalah, I'm sure, is everywhere. Obviously, it's a global phenomenon, but you still see signs of restriction there, and I think it also has to do a lot with the culture. So that's a positive thing, I have to say. It's much more controlled when it comes to this stuff. But yeah, I'm sure if you would have given me more, I would have taken more. I would have taken them because it really did feel good. You really have to be careful.
And somebody that wants to shut down the that overlay mind in their head that keeps talking to them. These things that, are like, oh, they just got to be great because you stop thinking. So much of it is just the thoughts that are going through their heads to begin with. So yeah, it's a seductive thing, and now they're putting more mind control in it. Boy. This is a good idea,
it's
right?
Very seductive. Yeah, that's the right word. They're trying to seduce you. Whoa, I hear feedback. Yeah, so I definitely agree. A couple of weeks ago, a friend of my colleague actually gave me a Christmas present. He said, "Come with me, let's go to the park and let's just chill." And I'm like, "Okay." So we went and we sat, and he takes out, something, and he starts rolling this joint, and I'm like, "Oh, hello there." And it was pure, and it was really good quality. And here in Italy, a lot of people do this stuff, and I was shocked, and it's been this way since I was a kid, even in the 90s. And the good thing about it is it's natural, and you don't get addicted to it. So I did it that one time. I had a few puffs, and that was it. I mean, I'm not looking for it, but it gave me I was very relaxed, very creative. You start seeing like things, patterns in the trees, and so it does, in a way, it does help you creatively. But you have to be very responsible. You can't just say, "Oh, I want to do it for the sake of doing it." You have to be very mindful when you do things. I've been offered drugs many, many times, and I never took them. Never took them. Just because of what you said, I was aware that, these things, you don't know what's in them. How can I say, is there stuff that might screw you up, ruin your brain, hurt you? So it's just not worth it. It's not worth it.
When we were doing them, nobody even knew that there was a potential for the brain getting screwed up on them.
Yeah.
They were pure because there was no incentive not to make them pure. It really came down to, I think the Vietnam War scared those bad guys into taking more and more drastic means to subdue the population. And drugs were one of it. I mean, yes, the CIA makes a tremendous amount of money in the drug trade apparently. Apparently, this money goes to fund black ops. But apparently just taking from the American taxpayer that Catherine Austin Fitz said that last year, right before 9/11, Rumsfeld, who was the head of the Defense Department, he said something about there being $3 trillion that's unaccounted for in the Defense Department, and everybody was like, "Oh my God," he said this right before 9/11, and then everybody forgot about it. And plus the fact that one of the main areas that knew this information and the information was stored was hit by the Pentagon plane and destroyed. Mm-hmm. So it was like, well, was that the reason for 9/11? Because, I mean, anybody who looks at 9/11 knows it was an inside job. So was that the reason? But she's saying that last year they're coming up with $4 trillion. $4 trillion missing in the Defense Department budget. So, wow. So I don't know if the CIA was required also to have a drug trade to fuel the black ops or not. But fact of the matter is that it might have all been just part of trying to break the society and keep them subdued and breaking us. And
they ended up doing the opposite.
In many ways. In many ways. It seems like
I think a lot of people woke up.
Over 9/11?
Oh no, I thought you were talking also about the 70s.
Oh, in the 70s,
yeah.
Yeah. No, what happened was that the Vietnam War, I didn't really, even though I lived through it, and was there and can tell you what happened on the campuses and the revolution that was occurring. I was only seeing it from my vantage point. When they did the Occupy movement, I said to myself, I wonder what the difference is between the Occupy movement and what happened in the 70s. So I went back and I researched the whole thing. And I had no clue that at that moment in time when we're doing our protesting on the University of Massachusetts campus and the Connecticut University campus and other places, that they were having 1 million people rally in London. We did not know the effects on a worldwide basis of this. And I also didn't realize that the White House with Nixon was so absolutely terrified of what was happening in the streets that they activated, I think it was the 5th Infantry Division, to go and protect D.C. You know, a lot of this we didn't know was happening. That's how scared they were. They came very close. The unions were working with the students. The black militia was working with the students. They came very close to revolution right then and there. And I think that it was at that point that they began to think in terms of, no, we've got to get more control over the population. Because right after that, you start to see they were already looking at mind control with the LSD and with MX Ultra, you know, what they could do with mind control that way. So they were already looking at it. And it's taken them, well, how many years, you know, 30, 35 years to get it to a point that it's absolutely as effective as it could be. And then what happens? Guy says, hey, you guys want to play with Shungite? And he says, Shungite, and now we can turn it all around. We can stop all this stuff. You know, because Gaia gave us Shungite. That's why we call it Gaia's Gift. And if you want to know more about Shungite, go to cosmicreality.net. And it's the biggest repository of information on Shungite on the web.
Thank you, Gaia.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gaia, because at least we think we have a, you know. Yeah, Colleen's saying they were protesting lots of things then too. Women's rights, black rights, Indian rights in Vietnam. It was an amazing experience, and I think that's why a lot of the people who were, you know, considered the 60s generation are in fact now or still maybe, you know, coming out again. There wasn't that many of us compared to what, you know, the whole population. But I don't think we ever forgot what we were doing. They just waited for us to graduate. I was actually told that by the history department. I wanted to go back as a graduate student. And they said, oh, we've been just waiting for you to graduate. We will not let you back in this school. And I said, so you're just waiting for us all to graduate? And they went, yep. Because then the internet came along. See, the universities were a way of people coming together. And now you got the internet and you got Wolf Spirit, you know, where people come together and they talk about this stuff. And they learn. And then they teach a little bit. Or they don't because people don't listen to them. But hey, things are changing. We're at the top of the hour. Nora, thank you very much. We didn't get very far.
Thank you so much.
We didn't get very far into the Wilcox story, but you know, take a look at it yourself. I'm probably going to talk about it in some other show or something. And Colleen, thank you so very much for being here. Anything you want to leave the audience, Nora?
No, I was just going to tell you, I think we forgot to kind of like give the, you know, the, what do you call it? You know, telling people about the donation and those things. Yeah, we did. Yeah, I'm kind of not with it. You can go over to Haggy Shack. This is a Haggy Shack production, and you can donate directly to Haggy. And if you put in $30 or more, you can get Shungite stickers we'll send you. And if you want to hear the archives of this week's show, you can go to Wolf Spirit Radio.
WolfSpiritRadio.com, and go to the current archives for a week and download them free. Then you can become a member and you can access them, all of the shows for a month for $5, and they send you an email every month to remind you and ask you again if you want to do it. So, Colleen, what do you got coming up now? You got Whitley and is that what we're doing? What time is it?
Haggy reads for you.
Oh, Haggy.
Yeah, I'll be replaying Haggy Reads for You. I read The Conflict in Space. It was a video, and I transcribed the English subtitles into a document and then read that back in June of 2015. It's about the Blue Orb ship and all that sort of thing. And
up next. That's coming up next.
Yep.
Oh, I want to hear this one. Oh, yeah.
And it's only a little over an hour long, and then I've got something else, the Unspeakable, for the second hour, and then the Fans of Whitley Strieber show, where, hold on if I can find my PDF file, Human Design and Destiny is the subject on Dreamland. Whitley interviews Chetan Parkin about his new book, The Book of Destinies, written with Carola Eastwood. It's a novel method of gaining insight into one's life purpose. And then following that will be Jeremy Vainey's Strangeness at Sacred Sites with his guest, Verna Hutton-Eli. And they travel the world to sacred sites as she regales us with tales of the sacred and the strange from her life. And then, of course, JP takes over the stream at 6 o'clock Eastern Time, 3 o'clock Pacific, for Sean David Morton's Strange Universe. So that's what's coming up.
Oh, it sounds good. Okay, then. So we're out of here. We'll see you next week. And on Saturday I'll be back. And we never know what we're going to do on Saturdays, but we always have fun. So, love you all. Be safe. Thanks so much, Nora. Thanks so much, Colleen.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, we'll talk to you later. So, see you later. Be
Thanks,
safe.
Colleen. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for visiting. You have been listening to World Talk with Friends, a Haggy Shack radio production simulcast over the Wolf Spirit Media Network.